channel. I'm Alexa. Today we're making my great-grandmother's Italian cream pie. I've measured out all my ingredients and I recommend that you do so too. You can find a full list of ingredients and measurements in the link in the description. Remember to watch the video first so you can be prepared. First, I'm going to make my cream. To start, I'm going to combine my sugar and flour on the top of my double boiler with a wire whisk. My double boiler is heated on medium-high. Now that my ingredients are combined, I'm going to add in my egg yolks one at a time. If you stop mixing, the eggs can curdle and become lumpy, so it can be helpful to have someone else add the ingredients for you as you mix. It looks combined, so now I'm going to add in my lemon zest and milk. The milk needs to be added in gradually also, so it can be helpful to have someone else pour it in for you. After these ingredients combine, I'm going to keep it on the heat and stir it for 20 minutes. Ours started to thicken at about 10 minutes. This is how it looked at 14 minutes. This is how it looked at 17 minutes. As you can see, the cream is sticking to the spoon and is more solidified than it was before. After I take the cream off of the stove, I stir for 5 minutes. Then I separated it evenly into 2 bowls. To do this, I used a baking scale and made sure they were the same weight. You can use any method you want to make sure they're even. You can even eyeball it. It doesn't have to be exact, just as close as you can get it. Next, I'm going to add in my chocolate to one of the bowls and stir it with a rubber spatula until it's fully combined. My creams are done, so I'm going to get started on my crust. This is a cookie type crust, so it will be thicker and crunchy to hold up to the cream. To start, I'm going to sift my flour and baking powder into the bowl of my stand mixer. That's to make sure there are no clumps. If you don't have a sifter, you can use a wire whisk or a fork. When you're sifting, you can push the ingredients through using a rubber spatula or a spoon, or you can just tap the sides of it with your hands. Now that my ingredients have all fallen through, I'm going to tap the sides of my sifter so I can make sure no ingredients are stuck to its stand. If your sifter doesn't have a stand, you don't need to do this step. Next, I'm going to add in my sugar and vanilla bean powder because it's a dry ingredient. If you use a vanilla extract, you shouldn't add it in yet. Then I'm going to mix these ingredients on the lowest setting to combine them. Next, I'm going to add in my butter. It doesn't need to be room temperature, but I'd recommend taking it out about an hour before so it starts to soften. If it's very firm, I would cut it into small pieces so it will mix well and quickly without overmixing it. I will mix this until it looks a little combined. Then I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. I will mix until it looks all combined. 'Then, 'I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. I will mix until it looks all combined. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my eggs and vanilla extract or vanilla paste. 'Then, I will add in my Ingredients are stuck to my mixer beater, so I'm going to quickly scrape down the bottom of my bowl, the sides of my bowl, and the beater of my stand mixer with a rubber spatula. This will help ensure that all my ingredients combine evenly. Now I can restart my mixer. I'm going to mix this until the ingredients combine with each other and aren't small separated chunks. After my ingredients homogenize, I'm going to roll them into a ball. Then I'm going to cut the ball in half. This is because there's a top crust and a bottom crust. Try to make them as even as possible, but use a slightly bigger half if you have one to make the bottom crust. I would suggest putting the piece you aren't using immediately in the refrigerator. It's easier to roll out if it's cold. Next, I'm going to roll out my pie crust. To do this, I'm using a cheese board and a stone rolling pin so the dough will stay as cool as possible, but if you don't have one, any rolling pin and work surface will work. If your dough gets warm, put it in the fridge for a little while so it can cool back up. I'm going to turn my rolling surface so I can get the dough to be as close to a circle as I possibly can. Roll it so that it will fit in the edges of a 9-inch pie pan. If it does, then the thickness will be correct. To remove my pie crust from the cheese board, I'm using a cake lifter. This will peel off the dough from the surface without ripping it. The dough is very forgiving, so if it rips, you can just push the holes closed. It is very important not to have any holes because the cream will run out when baking. After you put the crust into the pie pan, make sure it goes a little over the side of the pan. This will let you crimp the edges of the top and bottom crust, which is necessary for this pie. You can take some pieces of the pie dough that you set aside for the top crust and press it into the bottom crust to combine it. Next, I'm going to fill my pie. I'm going to start with my chocolate cream. After I pour it in, I'm going to spread it with my rubber spatula to make it an even layer. You can use a spoon or butter knife as well. Then I'm going to add my vanilla cream on top of it. You should use another spatula when you do this, or wash off the spatula you used for the chocolate so they don't get mixed together. Don't worry about the film that's on top of the cream. It'll bake evenly with the rest of the pie. When you pour in the cream, try to pour it at different parts of the pie. This will make it easier to spread out without mixing the two together. Now that my filling is evenly spread out, I'm going to cover my pie with the top layer of crust. I've rolled it out just like I rolled out the bottom. Try to get it as even as possible. If there are holes, make sure to squeeze the dough back together so there aren't any. Then, crimp the edges with your fingers so that both halves of the pie stick together. As you can see, my dough has a ripple, but it will cook fine, and remember, nothing needs to be perfect. To make the edges of our pie look a little nicer, I'm going to put my finger underneath the edge and then I'm going to mold the dough around that finger. This will create ruffles within the pie crust. I'm going to do this all around the pie. Next, I'm going to put the pie into the oven. It's preheated 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Try to put the pie in the center of the oven so it can cook more evenly. Our pie took 30 minutes to bake. I'd recommend setting a timer for 20 minutes and then setting timers for a few minutes after that until the pie is done. When the pie is fully cooked, it should be golden brown on the top. Put the pie onto a cooling rack so it can cool. Put the pie into the fridge overnight so it will be set by the time you want to eat it. And our pie is done and looking delicious. Please let me know what you thought of the video in the comments and how the recipe went for you. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you can see when new videos are added. Thank you and enjoy!